So the next topic we are having, that is basically ECG. What does it mean? It means that this is called the electrocardiogram. Okay. So what is ECG? ECG, as you guys all know, that in the conduction of the heart, we have discussed that there are the impulse is basically generated. So the impulse that is basically generated, so to detect that, we are having that ECG, through which you can find that the you can say the heartbeat is working properly or not, the you can say that the rhythm is basically properly or not, the conduction defects, you can say that the damage of the heart muscles, there is the proper flow of the blood into the heart of the muscles is correct or not. So these, through this you can easily basically, so through this you can basically, the ECG is basically a painless test is basically, so that basically measure the heart electrical activity. Okay, so that basically show that the heart is working proper normally or abnormally. So the ECG is always of the heart, as you guys all know. So this is basically discovered by William Einthorn in 1901 in 19th century, and first that is recovered, that is by the Waller, as you guys all know. So the electrocardiogram is basically what? It is basically a deflection recording graph. Deflection is like the graph that is basically like this. Okay, so this is the basically deflection, that is called deflection. So the deflection is basically recorded, that's we are calling that as a ECG. And a machine that is used to detect this deflection, that is called electrocardiography. Okay, so here you can see that when the impulse is basically passed, so this kind of a deflection basically starts. Before that, one more thing I want to tell you guys is basically what that is, some like about the polarization, depolarization and the repolarization concept I want to tell you guys. So from that you can easily understand that how the ECG basically work. Okay, for example, this is positive charge, negative. This is a membrane. Okay, so here you can see that this is the polarization. What does it mean? Polarization means that this is the resting condition, there is no impulse. Resting condition where no pulse is there. Okay, when the heart muscle does not contract, there is any kind of there is no electrical pulse, electrical, you can say that the activity. So there is no electrical activity, this is the resting condition. Okay, polarization, which means the opposite ions like this. Okay, so this is basically straight, no deflection basically occur into this. Next I want to tell you guys is this: positive negative, positive, and here negative positive. So this is basically what? This is the shuffling of the ions, like up and down shuffling. This is the up and down shuffling. This is the opposite ion. This is the up and down shuffling. Like positive is there is positive, so here is negative. Is here is positive, here is negative. Here is negative, here is positive. Here is positive, here is negative. So this is the shuffling. So the shuffling of the ions, which is up and down, that's we are calling as a depolarization. Depolarization. which means that when electrical impulse is basically coming in the heart, so the ions are basically exchanged. The change is basically occur in the, you can say, the graph. So the deflection is basically produced, so that we are calling as a depolarization, through which the electrical impulse is basically generated into this, and the deflection has been started. Okay, one more thing I want to tell you guys is repolarization. What does it mean? It means that there is a side change. Like if here is positive, here should be negative. Here is positive, here should be negative. Here is positive, here should be negative. And in here is positive, here should be negative, positive, negative, positive, negative. So this is here is the there is the exchangement of the, here you can see that here was, it was like, you can say that here it was like the positive and negative, positive and negative, but here you can see it is negative then positive. So this is the side change. This is what, this is a side change. So this size change of the ions that are shuffling, that we are calling as the repolarization. So this is polarization, depolarization, now the repolarization. So through graph you will easily understand what the about the ECD. So there I am making a graph. This is P, this is Q, this is R, this is T. Okay, this is T. So PQRT. Okay, so here you can see that we are having that, as you can see that we are having that here, PQRS, sorry, ST. Okay, so if we are talking about the time, so the time in the Q, that is basically 0.2 second, and from Q to the S we are having the distance, that is 0.4 second, and in T we are having 0.6 second. So now you will easily understand that how the electrical impulse is generated, and how you can say that the deflection is basically occurred. So this is the resting condition, which means the polarization. Resting condition, polarization, where there is no deflection, there is no deflection. So at P point the deflection basically start. Here you can see the deflection basically start. So that we are calling as a auricular depolarization, not polarization. Polarization was a resting condition. Here it is the, where the basically the impulse is basically start, and the deflection basically start, the starting deflection. We are calling that as a auricular depolarization, which means that when atrium basically contract, the impulse is basically generated by the pacemaker. The small impulse is basically generated, that we are calling as a auricular depolarization, which means that when the atrium contract. And if we talk about a Q, so Q is basically the atria repolarization, which means the relaxation of the atrium. And this is basically, it will not basically, you can see, because of the band of the R, it will be not seen, but here we are counting that too. If we talk about R, that is basically the ventricular. This was about the atrium. Atrium contract, atrium relaxed. Atrium contract, the deflection start, and the deflection basically move down, and it is the relaxation of the atrium. This we are calling R as a ventricular polarization. We are calling it systolic. Why? Because of the atrium, this ventricle will contract. So here the ventricle will contract. If we talk about T, so here the ventricle and atrium both will get relaxed. So we are calling as a, this as a repolarization. So this was the resting condition, which means this here was the polarization, this one, the depolarization basically occur, and the, you can say that this one P, yes, atrium get contract, and here the atrium get relax. Now here the ventricle contract, and here the ventricle relax, and atrium was already relaxed, so here we have written the atrial and ventricle both will relax. So as you guys all know that these are the four chambers. So as you guys all know, these both will contract, the blood will move down to the ventricle, and the atrium will get relaxed. Okay, so atrium will get relaxed, so there will be the formation of the R. There is the formation of the Q, sorry. Ventricle contract, there will be the formation of the R. Ventricle contract, the blood will move to the pulmonary artery, and here from the aorta. So when it will move to the this, so the at the time the ventricle will get relaxed, where when the blood is moved towards the aorta and the pulmonary artery, when the blood is getting relaxed, so there is the final formation, that is T, where the ventricle and the article both get relaxed. So this will repeat again like this ECG will repeat again and again. So this is what, this is the same repetition will occur again. So this was about the ECG. This is the sign of the ECG, and we are detecting the ECG through a electrocardiography. This is basically instrument. And ECG is what? ECG is basically the electrical impulse that is passed through the conduction system of the heart, as you guys all know. So this is basically this one conduction system of the, you can say that the impulse is generated, that is basically recorded by the electrocardiogram, which is called the ECG. So through which you can easily find out that the heartbeat is normally, abnormally, and rather these all things. So this was about the ECG in very detail.